and we may also have people from other parts of the constituency, such as Lewis. So whereas the branch line is the line that's most affected at the moment, there are people who are unhappy with the service on the main line, and so they've come to this meeting to hear what's happening and also to express their experience as well. As Peter said, we may hold two separate meetings because some people are struggling to get back from London for 7 o'clock. So that everyone gets a chance to hear what's happening. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Caulfield, the local MP. So I am the MP for Seaford and Newhaven. But I just want to outline before we start the other railway stations in my constituency that are affected by these changes. So although Wivelsfield station is technically outside my constituency, Wivelsfield village is in it. So Wivelsfield, Plumpton, Cooksbridge, Glines, Berwick, Holgate and Lewis are all in the constituency and affected by some of these changes. But on the branch line, we've got South East, Newhaven Town, Newhaven Harbour, Bishopstone and Seaford itself. So the branch line is significantly affected, as you all know. So the format of the meeting tonight is really to hear from Southern Rail, and I'm very, very pleased. I know that I don't want to give them too much of a hard time because they didn't need to come to this meeting. They could have said no, and they are the three people who are going to take the brunt of your anger and frustration. But I want to introduce Angie Doll, who's the Passenger Services Director, Robert McCarthy, the Head of Train Planning, and Simon Bott, who's the Depot Driver Manager, who are coming here to listen to your concerns and to hopefully answer some of your questions. And we also have filming going on as well. We've got both BBC and ITV here. You'll see them at the back there. So if you can remember a bit, as Peter said, to keep any frustration and anger that you have as civil as possible, because it will be recorded and we need to make sure that we have quite a productive meeting. So I want to really I want to hear from you guys, because as your local MP and as a group of MPs, we have done nothing but lobby ministers, the Department for Transport, the unions and Southern Rail on your behalf to voice the difficulties that this has caused. As you all know, the service has not been great since really Christmas on the line. Most of that has been due to some of the improvements and the Network Rail issues at London Bridge and some of the upgrades on the line. And I think we all understand that when work happens on the rail line, delays can happen. But what has really hit home, really since May, has been this industrial dispute. And the situation we're in at the moment, and the reason the new timetable has come in as of Monday, is because there is severe shortage of drivers. There's huge sickness on the railway line at the moment. I'm just setting the scene. I'm not defending anyone. I'm just setting the scene. The reason why they put out this new timetable, and Southern will explain this for themselves, is because of the shortage of drivers, and that is what has impacted most of us. I travel up to London every day to Westminster, and before I was an MP I used to travel up every day as a nurse to work in one of those from London, and I'm up again getting the 5:29 in the morning, so I completely understand. I get my train from Lewis, so I don't have the same issue with the buses, but that is why we're here tonight, is to talk about raising issues on your behalf. So this is really your meeting, and what I want to do is Southern is just going to introduce the situation as it is, because there's all sorts of rumours going around as well that this is a permanent situation, and my understanding is it isn't, it's a temporary situation, but we want to hear from Southern the facts of the situation. I have already contacted the new Secretary of State for Transport, Chris Grayling, who's appointed this afternoon, and we'll be seeing him first thing on Monday to discuss an updating on this situation as well. So without further ado, we're going to hand over to Southern, who's just going to outline the situation, and then we're going to take questions and answers to your questions. We do have some roving mics, so once Angie has finished, if you put your hands up and we'll get the roving mics to you. If you could say who you are and...
Hello everybody, as Maria said, my name is Angie Doll and I'm the Passenger Services Director and go via Thameslink. First of all, I'd like to start by apologising. The service has not been good enough to any of you that are sitting in the room that use the rail on a regular basis. It's not been good enough across the whole of Southern, and for that I do apologise. So I just want to take a couple of moments to give some context behind that, and it's not an excuse and it's not a justification, it's just to provide some facts of why we are where we are at the moment. So, and also to do a little bit of myth busting here this evening. So I think the first myth I need to bust then is we are not taking the trains away from Seaford on a long-term basis, as that poster, as you say in the corner there, that is not the intention here. And the intention here with the timetable is that we're operating the timetable for the next 4 weeks. So let me explain a little bit about how we've got here and why we had to take this decision. Because taking the decision to change a timetable and change people's services and replace it with a bus replacement service, I realise is not a convenient thing to do, and that's not something that provides good customer service. So, why are we here? Well, the reason we're here, as Maria mentioned, that months ago we started engaging with the RMT union regarding some changes that we want to make to the role of on-board staff that work on our trains. And as part of those ongoing conversations, the union have then been in dispute with us and balloted, and as you know, there have been several days of industrial action where we've been unable to run many services at all. Now, since the industrial action back in May, almost overnight we saw a significant spike in staff being available to come to work for various reasons, through to sickness, through to not working, any rest day working. So, as most train operators, we operate with our staff working rosters and also having the flexibility to do rest day working. And that rest day working is still being made available. So again, there's a bit of a myth here about we're banning overtime or we're banning rest day working. It's something that's been operating for the last 25 years and is operated on other networks such as London Underground. And
we'll take questions in a minute.
So it operates when the rail safety body have reviewed all of this and said this is a safe method of operation, otherwise we wouldn't be able to operate today across 40% of the trains. So we've said to the union that represent most of the guards and to our staff when we've been talking to them, what we want to do is take that element of your job off you, so you're released of closing the door, because on many lines, because the stations are quite close together, or because the platforms are quite short, the conductor for quite a big part of the journey are confined to a certain part of the train. So for example, where I live, on the Arun Valley, I travel on our trains every day, and I've been taking 3 hours to get home as well, so I know exactly how you feel. You can't see the conductor for a lot of the time, and that's not because the conductor is sitting in the back cab or he doesn't want to come through. That's because he normally has to be in the front 4 coaches for most of the journey, because he has to be where the doors are, where people can get on off the train. So if you're sitting in the back of the train, you spend the whole journey never having your ticket checked, never being able to talk to the conductor, never being able to ask for help. So what we think is reasonable is to relieve the conductor of that responsibility so they can go through the train at any part of the journey and deal with people who need assistance. At the moment now, they could be selling a ticket, and halfway through selling the ticket, they have to stop, they have to go and work the doors, and they have to come back. The other benefit, so this is the benefit that we see as the customer benefit, so you see people on trains more. The latest customer satisfaction survey that came in said that visibility of staff on train on the coastal way was 68%. So obviously it's not good enough. Visibility, we want to improve that. So by releasing the conductor of this one task means that they will be more visible. The other thing that it means is at the moment with these trains, we need a driver and a conductor before that train can leave the station. And if at any part, and especially if it's splitting and attaching, so if we have the driver and for any reason we don't have the conductor, because he may be delayed or a different working, or he might be last minute sick, we have to cancel the service. Going forward, we would have greater flexibility that would mean that we would not have to cancel the service. Now, the commitment that we have made to the union and to our staff is we will roster people onto trains as they're rostered at the moment. We will guarantee everybody has got a job. We will guarantee that everybody will have the same remuneration that they have today. We have guaranteed that there will be 440 of these staff to 2021 when our franchise to yourself in terms that the conductor is not tied to the door. So that is basically what this dispute is about, and that's what we're trying to resolve. Now, last week at the Transport Collects Committee, the unions were asked what would it take to get us back to the table. And one of the things was about can you give us assurances beyond the end of the franchise? And the Minister has done that now. So they have agreed to suspend their industrial action. And we've said, that's great, we want to talk to you, you need to get your members back to work as well, because this is causing us with the problem at the moment, and we want to resolve this. You don't need to suspend it for 3 months, let's work together to get this resolved. So I can assure you that we are working every day, and it is every day, to resolve this, because we do not want to cancel services. There are high financial penalties to us as a company for every single train that we cancel. So it's not in our interest financially, and it's not in our interest reputationally, and it's not in our interest with our staff or with our customers. So that's all I want to say at the moment, to give you some context of what this dispute is about and why we've got to where we are at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And because we don't have a huge amount of time, I don't really want to get into the industrial dispute issue, because we're not going to resolve that tonight about the safety of driver-only operated trains. But it's really to hear what the impact of this disruption, either before the new timetable, because the branch line was not great before the new timetable came in, but also since Monday, what the experience has been. So we've got a few. If we take the lady with glasses in the second row there, and the lady behind her there to start with.
Thank you. My name is Christiana. I live in Seaford and I commute to London Bridge every day, and I can back up and feel everyone's pain. It does take 3 hours plus each way. A comment really before a question, just on the communication from Southern. When you were speaking there, Angela, you said that staff were choosing not to work their rest days, which to me would suggest that there's an underlying issue of not having enough staff. So one question would be, and then the second question would be, it's great news obviously that the government has committed to extending those guarantees beyond the end of the franchise. However, from also what you were saying, the fact that you would be able to run trains without a conductor, without a second person on board, here on the branch line, as somebody who travels on their own late at night, to not have anyone on the train, especially at stations like South East, Bishopsstone, New Haven Harbour, which are unmanned, what are you going to do to guarantee safety, particularly at those stations which are unmanned, which for me is a significant issue in our area?
If you just take the question from the other lady behind you, and then we can get them both answered together.
My name is Susan and I travel from New Haven every day into Falmouth. I'm slightly aggrieved that you relate to the service that runs from Seaford to Lewes. It actually travels a lot further than that. We travel daily between Seaford and Brighton, or Seaford and London. The trains don't stop at Lewes, it isn't where it stops. Also, you bring lots of attention to the fact that your people won't lose their jobs. What about us? We're not able to reach the office on time. We leave at goodness knows what time to travel on buses, and that's not actually what we pay for. So, yes, very good for the Southern Rail people, but not so good for the rest of us.
I just want to pick up on those 2 points, because my mailbag has been full of people with similar experiences, and I think the communication has been really poor. You know, I found out on the BBC News that the new timetable was coming in. It was not consulted with MPs. It was, people had less than a week's notice to make arrangements for childcare, for work. So the communication with passengers has not been good. And with the rail replacement service with buses, you're quite right. It isn't just about getting to Lewes to get to London. Although this is the largest town in the constituency and New Haven is close behind it, there's no hospital in either town. So if people want to go to Brighton or to Eastbourne, they use the trains. For our young people trying to get to university or some of the big, it isn't just about getting to Lewes to then get to London. There's other things that happen.
So if I come back on some of the points that have just been made there. So the first point about do we have enough staff? So with conductors, we're at full establishment with conductors, so we have the conductor establishment and we're fully recruited to that. With drivers, we have...
The numbers wrong. You might have the numbers you need, or you think you need, but you can't go absent. So the number is wrong. Plain.
So the number where you work with normal working and the normal amount of sick and resting working that you would expect.
Yes, that's
all rail operators.
If we just let Angie answer the question, I think we've got your point that you don't feel the staffing's out of
Well,
sight.
I don't know how you calculate the number. Thank you. I need to know what they're doing about it to recruit the right number of people.
Okay. If we just let her answer the question, hopefully she'll be able to answer.
It's a rubbish answer. It is a rubbish answer.
I can only say that the number that we have is we do not have a large vacancy gap on conductors. And on drivers, we have an extra day a week, so they work 5 days a week across 7 days. The numbers that we use to calculate the number of staff that we use, even though this is not the answer that you want to hear, I accept that, is based on a calculator that is used industry-wide based on the number of staff that are usually available. So this is based on normal levels. What we are dealing with here are not normal levels of availability. So the conductors, we are at establishments. With drivers, we're recruiting. We are recruiting new drivers. So new drivers, they take, depending, anywhere between 40 and 40 rostered on the trains. That's the first point. If for any reason they do not turn up on the day, we have the flexibility to run the train under the new operation. Going forward, it is our intention that they are there all the time. So, as your concerns about security in the evening, they will still be there. And I will say then, again, because they're not confined to one part of the train, they're able to patrol through the whole part of the train.
Okay, we've got a few more hands up. We'll take some questions from the middle, but I just want to say on the 4-day working, I was quite shocked to learn that it's standard across the railways, and not just Southern, that a working week is 4 days, and so all train operators are dependent on drivers doing overtime, and during industrial disputes, they don't tend to do so much overtime, and that's why there's such a shortage. Okay, so we'll take Tony at the front, then Sarah, and then there's a chap.
It's quite simple. It seems to me utterly perverse to reduce the timetable to the level that it is. Why is it impossible, even in the short term, because it's not a long-term answer, to at least put one train an hour into Seaford so that people can get... What hope have I got that at the end of the 4-week period we will revert back to what we had?
Just pass the microphone to Sarah.
Hello, my name's Sarah McStravick, a former town councillor at the Covent Community Activist, I think I was called today as well. I'm a Seafordian. But I also work across East Sussex and I work nationally as well. And one of the things I have is, because of my impairment, I'm unable to drive. I rely on your service, and many of us do, the disabled community do. Over there, what about my work? What about getting to meetings taxi from here, because that's the alternative for me, and I've had meetings cancelled, is 30 quid in a taxi. I can't afford 30 quid. I don't know if you can, but thank you very much. The other point I wanted to raise was about equality, because it isn't just about equality. The bus rail service, it's not just about getting on and off the buses for us on a mobility level, it's also how do we transfer from that bus, if we're able to transfer onto the bus in the first place, to the train that's waiting in the station. I had a very nasty accident. I was off for 3 months last year because it wasn't on this particular part of the network, but across the network I fell down the staircase because I was running for a train and I had severe concussion. That worries me, and that worries me that other disabled people and older people will have similar issues. How do you make sure that we're going to be safe from the bus to the train? Your guards are impeccable. They help us on and off the train. They are amazing. As are your frontline staff. Was you mentioned 15% cuts across the network, and it's really echoing Tony's point, if I may. That is 15% cut across the network. If we were 15% cut, that's fine. But we're 81% cut in Seaford. That is not
and there's the chap there with the glasses and the moustache. Just while he's waiting to answer the question, just to say on the disability front, that the rail placement buses, I've had complaints. There's a young man called Sammy Taylor who couldn't get his wheelchair on the bus. Oh, Sammy, you're here. Welcome. Okay. Well, just take the check, because that is an issue. Does Sammy want to say something?
I've got a point. When I couldn't get on the bus, I was contacted by some railways later on by Facebook, notifying me that they will offer to pay for a taxi. I wasn't aware of this at the time. So I didn't know that I could get a taxi.
Okay, well thank you, Sammy. And I think that goes back to one of the original points, that the communication's not been great, so people haven't known much about the buses, or if they weren't accessible, what the alternatives were. Right, sorry, the gentleman just there wanted, and then we'll take the answers to those 3 questions.
Thank you. We're not supposed to discuss DOO, so I won't, but I'd just like to say I've just read the Rail Accident Investigation Board report on the Hazen Harlington incident, which I'm sure the 3 representatives here know all about, which lists a whole string of injuries to passengers on driver-only trains, including the awful West Wickham incident, where a person had their bag trapped in the door. They were dragged under the train, 2 drivers on the train, a trainee and an instructor. Neither realised it had happened, and they drove to the next station before they knew what had happened. So I think we're being sold a line on the total safety of DOO. It relies on a perfect world. But, my question. When you took over the franchise, you knew very well, because you run the previous franchise, that you didn't have enough drivers and guards to run the franchise without rest day working and overtime. Both rest day working and overtime rely on staff goodwill. You knew that both unions were opposed to the extension of driver-operated trains, and that you would be unlikely to retain that goodwill if you introduced this change by diktat. Yet that's what you did. Why did you do that? Why did you not foresee the chaos that resulted from your approach and wait until your staffing situation had improved before trying to break the unions or whatever it is you're up to?
Okay. Someone is going to answer that question, but I'm mindful there's a lot of people up the top as well who want to ask. So if we can keep questions to as quickly as possible so we can get as many people in as possible. Well, we'll just take some answers on those 3.
Looking back at the questions here, Just dealing with the last question there that the gentleman posed. When we started looking at this role, about introducing this role, we had conversations with both the unions, and we felt that this was going to be workable and it would work through. Since those conversations have started, back in November last year, the RMT and ASLEF signed a concordat where they said going forward they were not going to agree to any more DOO. That was not the conversations that we were having previously with them. So as we had started to embark on this process, so the union's principle on this changed.
Can you publish minutes to those meetings with the union, maybe on the website to prove to us that exactly to prove that?
Well, we've had meetings with the union. I can't publish the minutes about that one because that was a meeting that I've just said that happened between the two unions that we weren't at. But you look on their website and it will tell you that they have signed a concordat.
Okay, we've got quite a lot of questions here. Tony's point about an hourly service, is that something that could be achievable?
Well, with the timetable at the moment, we've said it's in for the next 4 weeks and we're reviewing it as we go on each week. We've been reviewing it this week and what we found this week is that we can put a couple of services, shuttle services, I think in next week. Rob, what we're looking at from next Monday. Well, the train planner, who's the expert on this, will be able to have more information than I have. So I'm going to ask Rob to say what those services are. Okay.
So, between Lewis and Brighton, there's a 1757 Lewis Brighton going back in from Monday, and the 1735 Brighton to Lewis. To Seaford, there's an 1822 Brighton to Seaford, and the return 1859 Seaford to Brighton.
Okay, let's put in some more extra services on, but actually people need to be able to plan their day. They need to be able to make sure they can get their kids back from childcare. So I do appreciate the effort you're putting in, but I don't think that's really the issue that people
But
have.
the effort is being focused on resolving the dispute with the unions, conversations with our staff to engage with our staff and bring them back to work and return the full train service. So that's where the focus is. So we're saying this is for the next 4 weeks. It could be a little bit longer, but initially... promise you that this timetable is going to change in the next 4 weeks. I think because it may and it may not. It all depends on whether. So remember, the reason we put in this timetable is to be able to deliver something that we have confidence in deliver. So as people, the numbers are returning to work and returning their rest days, that's when we'll start reintroducing things back. I'd like to address your question about the assistance for getting off the bus and to the train. We have brought in more staff at key stations, and when we have a bus link, they should be at those stations. So I will check when I go away this evening. No, they should be there to help everybody. Yes, they should be able to help everybody who needs to get from the train to the bus. So everywhere where we have put buses.
It might be 4 weeks or maybe 6 weeks, but can you give assurances that this is a temporary, a short-term temporary situation,
yes,
and not, 3 months later we'll still be here?
Yes, this is not a long-term.
Okay, that's what's been said. It's a short-term situation, but on the bus specifically. Is there no way that we could get replacement buses that will take wheelchairs, that will take pushchairs, because it's
Okay, so we can look at the buses that we've got and make sure that the buses. So we have we'll make sure that when I'm speaking to the control that the buses that we're ordering are buses that are accessible buses that buses can work with. If for any reason they're unable to provide that, they will provide alternative travel for you, and that's why we need to make sure that we've got the staff there at the station to help you. That's why I need to make sure there's staff there who can help you. Yes.
Could you also ensure that the drivers know
if there are concerns,
the bus drivers,
if there are specific concerns about your individual journey, do come and see me afterwards, and then we can upstairs, because we've got a lot of hands upstairs as well. So if we take 3 from this aisle here, the gentleman here first.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Clive Lacey. I live in Seaford, and one of the things that appalled me about this whole thing is that I find that Seaford is a very nice, strong community, and I never ever been on a protest before in my life. I don't think most of these people here. And what is so dismaying to me is that you come here and you really haven't got an answer. You smooth talk us. I and many others who worked in management in London, in service companies, and as a management team, you really need to go away. Think about what you've done to upset a town like this, and if you don't sort it out, it's never going to go away. It's going to get worse for you.
My name is Michael Fox. I'm from Seaford. I have to go to Guy's Hospital in London for treatment via London Bridge. The last journey I took back was a joke. It took 4 hours with 5 changes of trains and 3 changes of platforms. The point I make though is that Southern joined Govia on the 25th of July of last year. Less than a year we brought to this situation. I've been going for treatment for 3.5 years. Govia has a terrible reputation for industrial relations in this country and in France. Govia have trouble on the Gatwick Express. They have trouble on Brighton and Hove buses. The exact same problem. Not enough drivers. Drivers being harassed. Drivers getting telephone calls in the middle of the night to see if they can do overtime. Drivers asked to do overtime while they're still driving. Texting while they're driving. The management.
Okay, can we just...
Excuse me, but also, there's, in France, a strike has just finished on SNCF run by Govia, right? And I just wondered,
Okay,
why are you defending the bigger organisation?
Okay, thank you. Just for the people at the back, I think we have got some people arriving for the 8 o'clock meeting, have we? Okay, well, we'll keep going as long as we can, but we may have to stop. So that's why we do need the questions to be snappy. There's a lady there with her hand up with a stripy top. With the mic, if we just the microphone.
Can the answers also be a bit shorter so more people can talk? Thank you.
Okay, so can we get a microphone to that lady there with the stripy?
Well, I agree with everything people are saying about the management of Govia, which is absolutely atrocious. But I do think we're letting our MP off very lightly. The government gave this franchise to Govia. My understanding is that they paid a vast amount of money for Govia to run this service, and they get the revenue. I'm afraid I feel that there's a hidden agenda here as well, which is about crushing unions.
I'm very happy to answer that question. When this contract was there, I was not your local MP. I have done nothing but hound both the Minister and the Secretary of State. We've raised this at parliamentary questions. It's not just affecting this constituency, it's every MP from here to London. So we're working cross-party on this. We have called for removal of the franchise. I make no bones about that.
Just pass the microphone.
It's not to do. It's not to do.
Here and defend them at all. You have a very valid point there. Okay. If you just get some questions, where's Callum? Is he at the top? Right. So we've got 2 gentlemen at the front there, and we'll take there's a gentleman over the other side there. So we'll take
London services. Why have they not been given over to TfL? That can relieve some pressure on whatever you're doing. Why are services not being increased immediately between Seaford and Brighton, or Seaford and London, given the potentials of staff levels you say you can bring in, the numbers of people you're training? And I guess the final question is, all the profits that you're making, how much is being ploughed into new rolling stock, either modernising them or increasing the numbers of trains on the lines? That would also help the number of trains we have per hour.
Okay. And
is there an approach to, because you're not performing clearly, why is this not your franchise not going to directly operated railways? Why is that not happening?
Okay, and the gentleman next to you, he's got okay, and there was a gentleman in the red top over the other side. Just to pick up on the TfL, because I'm not sure that Southern can answer, they can only really specifically answer about their franchise. TfL.
I live at Seaford and work at the University of Sussex. My annual pool ticket cost me almost £1,000. Yeah. How much do you think it took a 15-mile journey for me to get to my place of work this morning?
You can tell us.
20 minutes. Who is going to compensate me for this time? I've paid £1,000.
Okay, can I ask you how you got
It's simple, right. So, I got the bus replacement service. For some reason, didn't stop at Southeast. Took 45 minutes to get to Lewis. At 9:30, missed the bus and I had to wait another 20 minutes for the next train to get me at Falmouth.
Okay.
From 8:45 to 10:05, it's about 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Okay. No, I think the gentleman.
For 50 miles later.
Yeah. I think the gentleman makes a very good point. One of the biggest complaints, the biggest queries I have at the moment is about the rail replacement service and where exactly it's stopping, because the train stations affected are South East, Newhaven Town, Newhaven Harbour, Bishopston and Seaford. And some of the rail replacement is just stopping at Seaford and expecting to see a bus and the bus doesn't turn up.
Yeah, so the south. Come back home and bake them.
Yes. So the buses stop at South East Church, at Bishopston and Hill Rise.
So, as Maria said, there's issues here about the bus that I will take back from this meeting this evening as soon as I leave here. The bus replacement service should reflect the train service. So if the train doesn't stop anywhere. So if you're telling me that is not the case, then I will go and investigate that immediately. Okay. And we will also pick up the issue around the number of buses. So clearly, if the feedback you are giving me this evening is that the buses is not always stopping. Right, can we just get some, everyone's entitled to their say and there's some people still waiting. Can I just say on the bus service that it needs to be stopping at every station that's on the branch line. It needs to be more frequent than the train service because the road journey is longer than the train journey, so people can make their connections at Lewis and wherever else they need to go. So you need a more frequent bus service than we have a train service. And it needs to be accessible, so if you've got a pushchair, if you're in a wheelchair, and people need that information. So this lady here who's got a scooter, with the best one in the world, there's many buses that take a scooter, so she needs...
London Transport.
London Transport do.
I use the buses up there.
Okay, so we do need to have truly accessible buses, so because this is quite an elderly town, people come and retire to Seaford, and so people are going to have mobility issues. So we do need to make okay. Let's right. We've got some questions here. The people over on this side have been waiting very, very patiently. So if we take the gentleman there with the check shirt. So Carol, you take the gentleman first, and the gentleman behind the check shirt.
Thanks, Carol.
Right, essentially, I've lived in Seaford for 4 years now. I don't use the train, but my family do, right? So they're going to find it really difficult. Now, all these people here can sense the anger that there is, and everyone showed that on Tuesday, wasn't it? So, well done, everybody that turned up. Right, so here's the thing. Essentially, it comes down to pressing the button, right? That's what it is, isn't it? It's your power dispute between the unions and the management. So really, we don't need to be here in this situation. We need a service. We don't need waffle. We need action. We need it now.
Sorry, there's people who haven't had their say yet. Please let them have their say.
I believe you've been less than honest with regard to the introduction of driver-operated trains. This is a national issue. It's been supported by the Department for Transport to reduce, if you go back to the McNulty report in 2011, a principal recommendation of that was that it should become the default position for all new franchises. If you look at a subsequent study by the Rail Safety and Standard Board in 2015, that indicated that adopting a strategy of guard redundancies delivered the greatest economic benefits. And while a strategy of staff turnover and redeployment of guards also delivered a reduced but still positive benefit over a period of 20 years. So it's the policy of the Department of Transport to actually reduce and get to eliminate guards on the trains. That's part of DFT's policy. And obviously in the situation with regard to the RMT union, that means a total decimation of their staff. So you're not going to resolve this issue by just talking to them and offering them the concessions in regard to Southern. This is a national issue as far as RMT is concerned. They're not going to agree to just concessions on Southern because it prejudices their issues all across all the other networks rails. At the moment, 30% of national trains are operated on driver-only basis. If it gets to 100% operation of driver-only basis, then the situation will be that the RMT union will be totally decimated. They're not going to...
Okay, we get your point, but you need to let other people in. So,
Councillor Sabat-Niji, this is just affecting, taking away 85% of the train is effectively affecting the seafood economy. It's not just... And effectively what they're doing is destroying our town. And I hope you can listen to what they're doing so it strikes me, listening to what you're saying to, that the problem is Caulfield and Caulfield's management. When will you do the decent thing and release and relinquish the contract and your franchise? Because obviously you cannot manage this contract.
Thank you very much. My name is Chris Caulfield. I sometimes go up to London, but my question to you is, does the C4 line make a profit? And is an accountant looking at the figures now and saying, it is making a profit, therefore we should invest? If it isn't making a profit, and you're saying 4 weeks, we're going to go through this trauma. I mean, it's unbelievable. This town takes in over 200,000 visitors over the year and spreads itself all up to Seven Sisters. And you're talking so small that we are losing total interest in your small talk. What we need, I get very passionate now, what we need is the figure. If this line is not making a profit, we want to know, because I have a funny feeling in 4 weeks' time the line will either cease or it will be reduced permanently. Can you guarantee, sitting there, and there's 3 of you sitting there, 2 guys dressed very nicely, have you cut the management? No, maybe not. It's nothing to do with drivers. Maybe there's too many management.
Okay, let's
There is no intention for us to reduce the timetable on a permanent basis.
Okay, I just want to get some clarification from the back. Can we carry on with this meeting, or do we, okay, so we're going to, there was a suggestion at one point we stop at 8, so, because I get that quite a lot from people who are coming in to see me, who are writing an email me. That is people's fears, that this is the thin end to the wedge, and in 6 months we'll be on reduced service, and a year there will be or cut the service at all.
Yeah, it is a short-term, temporary situation. There are no plans to cut, reduce, or cancel any of the services on a permanent basis to Seaford.
Okay. Right, so we've got this lady here at the front. There's 2 ladies at the front, well, there's 3 ladies at the front there, so we'll take those 3 ladies. And then there's a gentleman at the back with his arm up. He's been waiting an incredibly long time.
My name's Linda Fleming. I live in Seaford. I'm concerned that you didn't answer that gentleman's concerns about the accidents on the railways on the driver-only trains.
Okay, and the lady next to you?
My name's Nikki Ashenden. I live in Seaford. I work in Lewis. I catch the train on a daily basis. You've said from next week you're going to put on 2 more services. You're not hitting the times that we need the trains. We need the 17:28 out of Lewis or the 17:58 out of Lewis into Seaford. We need those trains. They're heaving.
Okay.
My name's Tracy Smith. I'm actually from Littlehaven, Horsham. I have 2 questions. Number 1 is, when you press the information desk, why is it? I asked where they were based the other day and I got told they were from India. Why is that? Well, how would they know where our trains are going if they're from India?
Okay, so there's a question there about the safety of driver-only trains, about whether there's trains, if you're going to put on extra trains, could they be at the time that people desperately need them, and then just about the communication. And I think that picks up something else someone said, that at the station they're just not able to get the information they need.
Okay. Well, regarding the safety of the train, as we've said, this is a safe method of operation. We use this method of operation day in and day out. We use hundreds of trains. The metro services are 60, the whole across the franchise, Thameslink is 100% DOO, Great Northern is as well, 40% of Southern are. We do not have accidents on the railway with this method. It's a safe method of operation. Make it mean more at the time that people want it, and I think my colleague on the end has heard that, and we'll go away and we'll look at that. I don't want to promise things that I cannot promise here this evening, but I will promise that I will go away and look at that, and we will definitely go away and look at the replacement gas services as well.
And just in terms of the communication, if there are extra services being put on as the timetable starting to get back to normal, how is that going to be communicated to people? Because they need to know before they leave home whether that service is going to be running or not.
So new services will be loaded into the National Rail Inquiry's timetable. So the process is that we bid the new trains to Network Rail. It goes in an overnight system that feeds things like the station's customer information system, and it feeds the National Rail Inquiry system. So a week ahead now you can see the train services that will be operating.
Okay, and is there a mechanism to put notices at Seaford Station for the week ahead?
Yeah, we can do that. We can put some stations.
All stations.
Yeah. So at the stations we can update the information that's there at the moment, saying what the service is going to be, and they will be updated by the franchise again. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. So it's structured as it is in the company. So when the Department for Transport let the franchise, they let it as GTR because they felt it would be easier to deal with one train operator with Network Rail and introduce the programme on time. So that's a little bit of the background behind that. Because of all the uncertainty about London Bridge and what would happen with London Bridge, and we saw that, and I think Maria alluded to that at the beginning, that we had some real problems at London Bridge. We changed the service, it got slightly better. Because of the problems with London Bridge, the government changed the way this franchise is structured, and we do not keep the fares, and we do not set the fares. That sits with the department. So we cannot, unilaterally, I can't sit here today and say what we would do with fares. That's got to
A season ticket, which for some people is close to £6,000 a year. That is something the government has to do. That isn't the rail operator because of the way the franchise is set. But we are certainly making a strong 8 o'clock meeting, and they're welcome and have a seat, and we'll try and get you in. There's a gentleman there in a black t-shirt, and then Callum or Carol, there's 3 people at the top there with their hands up that need to ask as well.
My name's Lee, I live in Seaford. Just recently had a daughter born. I was about 45 minutes away from missing my daughter's birth. And if I missed it, I would have got one of these, £4.90. That does not compensate. It took me 5 hours to get home that day. 5 trains from London Bridge to Brighton. I travel to London every day. 5 trains over 5 hours. If I missed that birth, I'd have got one of these, £4.90. That's not good enough. You need to at least put one in an hour. This town is better than that. Don't treat us like this.
South East, there's the YMCA, we've got tourists that come and stay there. They're losing a huge amount of money. This is peak season for tourists, and if they have a bad experience, they may not come back again. So, is there any way we could have 1 train an hour during this temporary timetable?
As I said before, we put the timetable into the
Be honest.
What I can commit to is that we will look at it on a weekly basis. We will look and see what we can do. I feel very clearly what it is that you want and what you're looking for. We will investigate ways that we can do that, but I do not want to promise you something that I cannot deliver.
You can't deliver anything.
Okay, so
you can't promise anything.
The gentleman is just shouting there, the microphone is coming to you, and I think there's a gentleman just in front of you with a white shirt as well.
I'm beside you.
Points of order. Firstly, you can't promise anything about a review of timetable. You're relying on people to come back from sick or to volunteer their rest day working. That's an absolute farce for you to even suggest that services could be reinstated at any point. You don't know. On a point of legality, I don't understand how Govia can be offered a franchise that it wasn't equipped to have the staff to man. It's effectively promised something that it cannot deliver and has never been able to deliver. To carry on advertising that timetable right up until Monday is false advertising, and someone should be taking you to court. On a second point of order on legality, I cannot think of a single business in the public sector that can advertise a service, slash it by 80%, and then stand in a church hall and get a bit antsy when the public get in your face. That's ridiculous. One last observation. I happen to know that the 3 people sat in front of you actually travelled down to Seaford on the 1 remaining train service in the evening. You didn't come by bus, did you? You sat in first class.
I'd just like just a couple of things, just sitting here listening. You said about the buses actually coming, supporting the timetable. Well, I've had to change my daily routine because the 7:15 from here doesn't connect with the 7:40 anymore at Lewis. So that's a load of rubbish to start with, alright? Now there's another thing, right? How can you justify on strike days no service at all? Nothing. And that happens, not just, this is historical. A bit of snow, nothing.
Completely agree.
Everything closes down. The wrong kind of bleeding rain. It closes down. We are given no respect on this line. In fact, I know for a fact that the people who work on it call it the arse
than it would be by rail. So we need more than just like-for-like replacements if people are to make their connections at places like Lewis. Okay, while I think...
For the past 24, 25 years, can you tell me why you've got old rollies got running on the Seaford to Brighton service, which should have been decommissioned years ago, and not only that, there's no toilet facilities on the train. Right, so what do we have to do? Cross our legs to get to Buddy Lewis and that? Can you explain to me on that?
And it's like a fridge in the winter.
So, I'm not an expert on the fleet side of the business. My colleague here tells me that the fleets that we're using here are 313s, which are probably the older of the fleet that we have. Thameslink service. But the trains are maintained on a regular basis, and that's the train service that we've got to operate.
They might be maintained, but they don't run. That's your problem.
And we've heard about the difficulty with a wheelchair, and I was surprised to hear Maria mention there's also been difficulties with pushchairs for mums. So I would like an explanation of what's going on with that. My own specific query I come along with, I've got 2 advanced tickets for rail holidays, God forbid. One to Edinburgh and Glasgow and one to Manchester. And the first bit of the service is to Seaford. I've been told there are limits on large luggage. Can I take a suitcase on your bus service? If not, how are you going to get me there?
One of the things that I have committed to Maria that I will do after this evening is go away and look at that replacement bus service, both the frequency of the bus service and...
Okay, and if you want to get to Gatwick from Seaford, you're going to have to take your luggage. So, that is the main thing. So I'm conscious that some people are leaving. So we will take a few more questions. We'll go to past and then we'll start to wrap up. So there's that gentleman there and then this lady here and there's a chap.
Unfortunately. Realistically, you're not going to sort this problem out in 4 weeks. At the end of the 4 weeks, can you make some other service suffer and give us our service back?
Okay, so we'll do this lady, Father Trevor, and then the man at the back.
Hello, Victoria Palmer, I'm a Seaford resident. If there's 50% cuts across the service, could you tell us all in this hall why Seaford, why you chose, I want to know, why Seaford now has 8% cuts? Why did you choose Seaford?
Because if you look at the map of the current timetable, everyone's got reductions, but in the southeast, from my understanding, it's only the Seaford branch line that's got peak-only hours, and it does feel very unfair when Seaford's the largest town in the constituency, when New Haven has the ferry service, we've got people arriving who are stuck. So is there a reason that the branch line was chosen to have such a drastic reduction as compared to others?
So one of the things that we were looking at the train team plan we looked at was are there alternative services at all that can be operated by other operators? So the other line that has been suspended completely is the West London line. So on the West London line we have suspended all the services on that line. There are no services peak or off-peak. And that is because there are alternative services offered by law. So there are other places where we have withdrawn the service completely during this revised timetable. So I'm just trying to explain the rationale why we've come to where we are. So one of the things that the train plans have looked at, is there an alternative services available? Is there an alternative service that with a bus replacement service would be a viable services for operate? And that's the reason why Seaford has got the replacement bus service.
Sorry, we have 700
between 2014 and 2015 in Seaford alone. I think this is pretty unfair. Also, I'd just like to point out a few things. How this is affecting our town. Today I had to take a cab, and my cabbie said, because these buses, we have halved our takings. I think this is unacceptable. You know, this is affecting it's a domino effect in our whole town. You are letting us down, you are cutting us off, and we really need something done. At the end of these 4 weeks, we are not going to accept people sitting here and giving excuses anymore. So please, can you just sort this out for once? We can't have this anymore. We're going to be protesting. I hope that you've heard about our protest and you have heard every single voice that was there in front of the station with babies, even with their dogs. I hope you heard the message and listen to these people. You can't just isolate our town anymore.
They were locked in charge of the station. And there's got to be some answers, because you said it's not my intention. Now, the word intention is always a variable one.
It wasn't my intention to play with the word.
But you see, what I would like, instead of the word intention, if we can all play with it, and I play with it at times, it's categorical statements rather than intentions. And secondly, I hope it's not self-facetious, and it's certainly not to be sexist. The lady to the next to me has really early, but the question from her to me also is, we've got 2 gentlemen here as well. We haven't heard them yet. Have they anything to say? Finally, Mayor, thank you so much for calling this meeting and for chairing us through so well and the spirit of the day. Thank you.
We are not planning to close Seaford Station for a while. We are not. No, it's not in our plans, it's not in our intention, it's not on the horizon.
Okay, I think people want just a no.
It's a no. It's a no. We're not going to close it.
Okay, so the gentleman who's been waiting for a very long time at the back there.
Right, good evening. My name is James Oliver and I've lived in Seaford for 40 years. I've got a solution to your problem and I've got a question. If it takes 18 months to learn a train driver, does he have to spend 18 months to drive a train from Seaford to Lewes? Because there's not a lot of lines and there isn't a lot of junctions. And it's just a little road. But I've got a solution. Everybody's heard of Drusillas, haven't you? Yeah. Well, we've got a train in Drusillas called Thomas the Tank. And all you need is just for one person to do it. You've got to pick him up. And when he's got to that end, he goes back. It's not complicated, not rocket science. All we want is a train from Seaford to Lewes, which is a main station point. And once you get us all from Seaford to Lewes, it might sort itself out. But if not, let's go and get Thomas the Tank from Jerusalem.
So I know people over here have not had a huge amount of questions. So there's 3 arms there at the front, 1 at the front and 2 in the row behind.
Very aching arm as well. So there's a party that's not being represented here tonight, and that's the unions themselves who really should have the right to reply to this. They've been demonised and they've been criticised.
I can answer that. The main reason was because it's a southern issue. I certainly hope I'm not demonised unions. I've met with Mick Cash, who's the General Secretary of the RMT. They have genuine concerns about safety, and I think people have raised that here tonight as well. So my intention isn't to demonise it. The people who made the decision to bring in a temporary time jobs
through your action. And I know somebody who is now, he works for the emergency services in London, travelling from Seaford. He has time in the morning. I gather, apparently, Charles Horton earns 2 million a year and a big pension. I would like to know how you justify to us your extortionate wages and allow this to happen.
I've got constituents that have written warnings because they're constantly late for work. I've got young people who are struggling to do their courses because they can't get to lectures or to exams on time. And we've heard, I think he's gone now, but the young man who's just had a baby and nearly missed the birth. So this isn't just about timetables. This is having a huge impact on people's lives. And you know, no amount of fair reduction or compensation is ever going to make up for that. So, you know, this is why we need it resolved. And what can you do to say to people and to stop this huge impact it's having on their lives?
Well, as I opened, you know, we do apologise unreservedly. That may not sit well or what we're doing, but
actions, not words. The 80% cuts to seafood. Why? You still haven't said we have no alternative transport. A bus that you put on. You're talking in West London where they have access to trains, to subways, to tube lines. It's not the same.
Answer. Be a foreign student. If the foreign students have a train,
part of the South East, there aren't alternatives. There aren't bus routes.
there's a foreign student service that runs non-stop from Eastbourne to London every week. Right, you treat foreign students specially, but you don't treat ordinary English people.
Okay, we're not going to have that discussion here. Let's say.
My question is about replacing buses. My understanding is they finish about 10 o'clock. That's nothing like the actual train service that's being offered. How are you supposed to get back from Lewis after 10 o'clock at night? And also, the weekend services are still running, I believe?
Yeah, the weekend
services.
services.
How can you explain being able to run a weekend service but not be able to run a weekday service?
So the weekend services, we generally have less services on a Saturday and a Sunday to the timetable that we run Monday to Friday. So with buses, if the bus replacement is not matching the timetable, I will recommend.
Hi, my name is Mandy and I'm sort of temporary living in Seaford. I'm going up to London an awful lot, coming back. But can I go back to the train drivers? Why are they given a contract for 4 days? If they were given a contract for 5 days, a full week, then they wouldn't have to be refusing to do overtime, and then this wouldn't be a problem. And then tomorrow I'm going on the train up to London for my daughter's birthday. It's going to take me, they say the bus is going to take me an extra 10 minutes into Lewis. Then I've got 20 minutes wait, which is far more than normal, to get from Lewis to East Croydon. And then if I came back on the same day, I would sort of semi-retire. That is an hour on my journey if I did that in a day. That is not acceptable for commuters that are going to work every day. It's just not on.
Not run a railway. How do we sack them?
Hello there, Anthony White, resident of Seaford. Maria, 14 months ago, in one of your manifesto pledges that you personally made was that you were going to improve rail services. So far we've seen an 80% failing in that, a complete failing on your part. Now, I see that as an opportunity for you, just as any politician would see that as an opportunity, because as of today, you've got a very good chance of reaching your manifesto pledge.
Well, thank you, Anthony.
But on a serious note, can we get some decisive answers from you? I've only been in here about half an hour, and all I've heard is mumbo jumbo, airy fairy answers. I haven't heard Tweedy Love and Tweedy Lee here. Now maybe if the guys could say something, because obviously you are incapable of giving us anything other than vague. Maybe they can give us a more decisive answer. We can actually hear something. You've ostracised this town. There's 26,000 people
the route that we were planning, or we're still planning to do, what I campaigned for before the general election was something called Brighton Main Line 2. And this is precisely the reason why we need a second rail main line from Sussex Coast up to London. Because when something happens on the existing line, the whole thing grinds to a halt. We have got engineers looking at reopening the Lewis to Caulfield line, creating a second direct line from Seaford to London. No changing at Lewis, we're changing at Brighton, a direct line. The results of that will be due through in the autumn. But this is precisely the reason that we need that second rail main line, is so that when there is something that happens on the existing line, Seaford is, and Newhaven isn't just left to dwindle as has happened now. Okay, so there's a gentleman there next to Anthony who wants to make a point. Is that Peter? Sorry, my eyes are bad. Peter, is that the same?
Yes, we've heard tonight that when there is industrial action, the C4 service ceases completely. We've seen that when there is a temporary timetable, the C4 service goes down by 80% as far as actually putting wheels on rails are concerned. Can I just ask, is the reason for that because we are so dependent on the railway line from Seaford to Newhaven to Lewis to Brighton? We are so dependent that you know that however badly you treat us and cut us, that we will flow back on lemons to the service we need.
Okay, and I know there's, where's Callum? There's that chap there that just because has been waiting forever and I keep forgetting. Sorry, so you have been waiting a very long time, sorry.
Yes, I was a parish priest here until 17 years ago. I've just moved back to retire here, and I'm using the rail a lot more than I ever did because of my senior citizens rail, safe card and so on. So yes, I'm very interested in the rail service of Seaford. But actually my question really is to you, Maria. Are you, as RMP, happy that our rail service is run by a company that at the end of the day is a French company? And our electricity is run by a company which is 80% owned by the French government, and Aeon is government owned by the Germans, so my whole rubbish collection, yes, that's another French company as well. I mean, is part of the trouble of this sort of thing, that they're operating with companies that are not, at the end of the day, in our country.
Yeah, well, I mean, I completely agree with you. There is, I would quite like to see, companies coming forward that has a personal interest in making this happen. And I think all MPs, cross-party, Labour MPs, Caroline Lucas and Brighton Pavilion, we are all working together because we're not happy with the way this franchise is working. And, having a new Secretary of State gives us a great opportunity on Monday to get that sorted. So I give you my promise that on Monday morning I will be going to see the Secretary of State to try and get this issue resolved, not just the temporary timetable. This lady has been raised, she's the lady that uses the scooter to get on the train.
Our station has been there for 152 years.
And we rely on this train considerably. You seem to think that we're a town of old people. From the things like your little shuttle service, that's what you was inferring. But it's a train service and people from all sorts, all ages, use it a lot. And it would devastate this town if ever it was closed. So, I have got the message loud and clear for you this evening. Apologies for calling it a shuttle service, that's my error. I would like to apologise again because the service has not been good enough and we are working to try and get it back. We want it to be a temporary timetable. We want it to only be the next couple of weeks because we want to bring back the full service. It's not in anybody's interest not to be running the full train service. I found it really interesting this evening to customers being able, you passengers being able to get to work and back around those critical trains that are really important for you. So that's the commitments I'll take away from here this evening.
Okay, so we are drawing to a close now just because time is creeping on, but we'll just finish with this lady here.
Okay, there's two things. My name's Karen Holland and I work in London, so I travel from Seaford to London every day. Two things. All of you keep saying we have peak trains at the moment. We don't. Please can you look at your definition of peak? The rail ticket we pay is £6,000 a year in order to go to London. Peak is not ending trains at 6 o'clock in the morning and replacing them then with buses. And then 8 o'clock at night, then taking those buses off and putting trains back on. The bus service that you are providing is at peak times, all of the time. The earliest you can get back from London, if you leave an office in London at 5 o'clock, is to get 5:22 from London, either the Victoria train or a London Bridge train. The earliest you get back here, if you were lucky, was 7 o'clock. That obviously doesn't happen now. So 5 hours has been the norm. So I appreciate that you've tried to alleviate that by that timetable. The other thing is that if you watch the committee meeting that the Govia people and the RMT attended, in that meeting, Govia admitted straight away, Charles Horton did, that yes, you didn't have enough people to start with. So I think also you need to look at that and get your numbers right. Also, if you are Southern yourselves and you're not Govia direct, then because of the franchise, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you actually don't care, because you are not being penalised financially, because you aren't receiving the revenue and you aren't paying the compensation. So you actually don't care.
Under this franchise, we do not keep the revenue, Fair Box revenue. We do not. Yeah, the government do.
You, as a franchise, don't care.
So
because you get paid your £1.3 billion for that franchise, regardless of whether you're giving it a train or a bus. You get that money. You were penalised £2 million for a poor service. That percentage of the £1.3 billion is minute.
So let's clear something up here about the payment that we receive from the government. It's a management contract and we receive a fee from the government for that management contract. Out of that fee pays all the costs of running the business. That's not our profit. Out of that we pay £1 million a day to Network Rail to access the tracks, to access the stations. We pay rolling stocks lease on that. We pay 6,500. We pay 6,500 staff out of that. Our margin on that is 1.5%. So we are not making billions of pounds out of this franchise. We are not. Yes, but I can. Even so, it's not for us. It is about, even though you're going to laugh at me when I say this, we generally do want to provide a good service. That is not our intention here, to make you late for work, for people to lose your jobs. I understand your frustration, I understand your anger. As I've said, I use the rail service on a regular basis every day myself. I don't use it to Seaford, but I do use it. I use the rail on a best days, and I think going forward, I accept that we have to make it better, and it has to be better.
Okay, all right. Now, I'm going to draw this session to a close. What I will say is, firstly, can we just say a massive thank you to the Baptist Church for letting us use their hall. They have put on extra people, they're all volunteers, so they've put on extra people to make sure that we've all been looked after, we've all been able to have this service. As your local MP, I am devastated that we're in this situation, and I am doing absolutely everything that I can do to make sure that this temporary service is stopped and a full timetable is reinstated straight away. So the points that I've picked up from this meeting is that it's between 4 and 6 weeks that this temporary timetable. I'm just summarising what I've heard. This is not what I'm saying. This is what I've heard. And I will be seeing the new Secretary of State on Monday to make sure that that is the absolute maximum that timetable is in place. Because we want... I think what we've heard tonight is that it's a temporary situation, it's not permanent, it's not going to lead to a complete cessation of rail services and Seaford, and I will hold the company to that promise that we've heard here tonight. taken away from this meeting that there are going to be some clear guarantees for that rail replacement service, that it isn't just matching the trains that it's replacing, that it's getting people to Lewes, to Falmer, to Brighton on time, and that it doesn't just stop at, I think, 6 o'clock in the evening or 10 o'clock in the evening that someone mentioned. It needs to be a service that is getting people to and from where they need to go to. I'm also going to take away the commitment to look at, it's not a promise, to look at reinstating the hourly service as soon as possible, so people have some certainty. I'm also, because it isn't Sutherland's job, I am also going to speak to Secretary Sutherland about reducing the fares, because even if that timetable ceases tomorrow and you get your full timetable back, I think people have suffered for long enough. It's not just these last couple of weeks, it's for months and months and months. And I am going to ask to see if we can get a reduced fare, not just for season ticket holders who pay an absolute fortune to use the rail service, but people who buy a single ticket, who maybe use it once or twice a week.
Return tickets.
Well, no, and return tickets, all tickets. I think we need to see a reduction in fares, and that is a government decision, that isn't a Southern decision. And just to make the final point really, I know we've been given a peak-only service. There isn't really such thing as a peak service. If you need to get to college, you need to get to college. If you need to get to the hospital, you need to get to the hospital. People's lives are really suffering, and peak-only services sounds good, but actually it's not really helping people get to where they need to go, but it's also not bringing the tourists in, and that's what the businesses in this town depend on, is people coming into the town as well as people being able to get to where they go from. So I do want to thank the three people from Southern, particularly Angie, who's taken the bulk of your anger this evening. All of it, she's taken all of it. And I don't know if you guys do want to say anything?
non-stop, and it's great for me to come here for places like this because it really energises you to keep the game going, to keep everything going, what I was going to say was, look, we're working incredibly hard and no one wants to see you.
Free tickets.
I just want to pick up the point I think the gentleman made, or the lady made over today, about caring. I'm in charge of the team who put together this timetable. It's not a job they enjoy. It's not a job they enjoy doing because they are very proud of the work that they do. And it's not ripping up timetables, it's creating timetables.
They need to have Specsavers.
So, we are in a position, of a fact, we don't, for whatever reason, we don't have the resource that we need to run the full timetable.
Why did you take the franchise on then?
Well, I can't answer that question for you.
Okay.
I'm going to answer that question.
Okay.
But all I want to say is, the organisation does care, and Simon said, this is an eye-opener. I promise I will go back tomorrow. We will look at the rail replacement service and do what we can straight away. We will look at the suggestions of putting hourly services back into Seaford as well.
Okay, so I think we have got concrete commitments. We've got some scope there to make considerable pressure to make sure this is as temporary as possible until we get back to the main timetable as soon as possible. We will look, or I will make sure that the company looks at the bus service that's replacing it at the moment. We will push for that hourly train service to return as soon as possible. And I will look and speak to Secretary State London about reducing fares. What I do want to say is anyone who has an individual case where they're either having trouble getting to where they need to go, or whether there's access issues such as Sammy, please do come and see me after the meeting, because I can take up your individual cases. And I certainly want to get this resolved as soon as possible, because it's not been good for Seaford, New Haven, and actually for the whole constituency.